I was asked by an anonymous viewer, what do I mean by Jerusalem theology? And I mean that from Jerusalem, by the words of the prophet, should come forth the law and the word of God from Jerusalem. That Jerusalem's history as an intact city for 1,000 years that was only destroyed not because of its own internal destruction, although that certainly led to it, but by exterior causes, by invading armies, by empires wanting to have cooperative states between their empires and to pay taxes, so that Israel and Jerusalem as its ancient capital had achieved some level of sustainability, so much so that its citizens sang its praise and were happy. They developed a sense of fine-tuning of the agricultural processes, of the taxation processes, the rights of the individual, the entire idea of the Sabbath and the festivals and the occasions for the new moon. These were days of rest. These were days where people could not be forced to labor. And these were days which were encouraged for them to exercise the fruits and the benefits and the products of their ingenuity. So that is a core idea in Jerusalem theology. The very idea of Jerusalem, the etymology of the word comes, and the combination of words is very interesting. Jerusalem, the second word is Salem or Shalem, which means complete, but it also means an entire process, a cyclic process, and it also relates to the word justice. But it is not just Shalem, the singular word which Jerusalem is named after, but rather Shalayim, two types of cycles, of processes, of justices, and a complexity, a combination, a recycling of processes. And you also see in the first letters of the word, Yud, Jerusalem. It is also the first letter of the name for God. It represents future. It represents planning. It represents structure. And therefore, and the second letter, Resh, represents the head, and represents sight, and represents acknowledgement and sensors. So here we see that Jerusalem represents the ultimate idea of a city. And here you see that the idea is represented in the prophets, where it says the city will be joined together. That there were two parts of the city, but they would be joined together. In fact, the Temple Mount was supposed to be that aspect that brought the two mountains, or the three mountains, or the rift, because Jerusalem stands in between the water dividing line, the waters that flow to the Mediterranean on one side, and to the Dead Sea, the lowest point in earth, on the other side. And Jerusalem brings together the two valleys that distribute the water in two different directions. In fact, two different places on earth. So that the idea of Jerusalem as a management of various cycles is embedded in its very essence as a city. And another example of that is the waterway, the underground waterway from the Gihon spring just outside of the city to the city. The idea that the city would be joined together with its spring. these ideas, which relate to long-term regenerational imagery relating to Jerusalem, also relates to Jerusalem theology. And from Jerusalem came forth some of the greatest interpretative schools in history. The interpretative abilities of the prophets, a school of thinking and of philosophy that extended for hundreds of years. And then later on, of the leaders of the Great Assembly, that they was said that they were required to know 70 languages to be members of them. And then to the writers of the literature of the Bible and the pseudepigraphia, and then the Mishnah and the Talmud, and then the New Testament. And these literary schools that emerged out of Jerusalem and from Jerusalem that would provide a knitwear for all of Western and Eastern civilization, the entire alphabet, which was developed in Jerusalem as a method of prayer and a method of service towards the divine, spread throughout the entire world, and the interpretive decision. And these combine the basis of New Jerusalem theology, the interpretation and the reinterpretation and the reapplication of actions onto meanings, just like grammar can have a application onto its verb to make it mean something, and the ability to move the spirit, and not only the spirit of the city, but the spirit of the whole world, for the call to justice for all, the eradication of pain, the mending of injury, and the bringing about of a wonderful world society.